sincerest apologies about the technical challenges just now. As you join, just let me know if you're able to hear me. Please give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're able to hear, and I'm just reminding you, like and share the video as you join, and let me know also where you're joining from. All right, so we started the journey and we're just going to pick up from where we left off. Okay, great. I'm seeing Kevon, my hubby, confirming on Facebook that he's able to hear me. So just waiting on a few more persons to join the stream, and we can pick up from where we left off. All right, so let me know, what are you looking forward to as you join the journey? What are you looking forward to? Hi Josh Ron Construction, welcome to Own It to Own It, where we're discussing home ownership, but I'm sure you'd make an excellent partner over there in the construction industry. Do you start construction from scratch, or what's the scope of your services? Maybe we can even partner for this series. Let me know if you're looking for some opportunities to get referrals and business. Josh Run, or is it just like home renovations? We can connect, you know. All right, waiting on my Facebook family as well as my YouTube family to pick up some momentum. Hi there, Ishel. Welcome to the stream. I don't know if you were on before, but apologizing about the network challenges we were having earlier. Just waiting on a few more persons to join so we can pick up where we left off. Tonight we're discussing financial planning considerations for prospective homeowners embarking on the real estate acquisition journey, and we'll just be taking you through some very high level insights about the ABCs of financial planning for home ownership. And so I've broken it down into bite-sized pieces for the purpose of this free session. But if you want harder meat, more solid food, sign up, click on the link. Oh, awesome. Joshua is a developer. He says we can build dreams. All right, I'll connect with you after the series. I'll look at your page and we can discuss further how we can possibly partner together on this journey. We'll be having 2 weeks of engagement for each stream, and the second week will be an exposition of different persons in the industry. So it will be good to have perspective from persons who may not necessarily be looking to purchase a ready-made home and may want to build from scratch. So good to have you on, Josh Ron. All right, I see my Facebook people, my Facebook family rejoining the chat. And so just going to give a brief recap of what we went through so far. I was just sharing that, for persons who have not yet tapped into real estate acquisition, it's one of the fastest ways to gain wealth. And there are many reasons for this. The benefits I'll explain, if you sign up for the paid stream. However, what we do know is that based on market trends, firstly, in real estate prices, we see that year over year, the prices continue to climb. And so 2018, we saw the average price of a home being about 16.8 million. In 2019, that went further up to in the ballpark of about 19.2 thereabouts. And as at last year, we saw that those prices going even further up in the range of 26 to 35 million for the average 2 or 3 bedroom home. And so if you have not yet tapped in on the journey, I was just sharing that now is a good time to do so before the prices escalate out of the reach of the average Jamaican. I was also sharing insights about interest rates. And so we saw, up to last year, interest rates were reasonably low, single digits. We saw interest rates at most financial institutions ranging between 6%. Highest ballpark is in the range of about 7%. And now with BOJ rates going up, we see the banks starting to respond, and they're moving their rates likewise. And so we're seeing interest rates now, as low as 7.49, I believe, is what Scotiabank is advertising, and we see other institutions going as high as 8.5%. And so if we follow this trajectory, because I'm not foreseeing, I don't have any foresight as it relates to what will happen in the future, but if we follow that trajectory, we can assume that interest rates will continue to climb. And so from the perspective of somebody who will be taking a mortgage to buy a home, you don't want to get the mortgage when the interest rates are too high, because that's going to have a bearing on your mortgage payment. It means that your mortgage payment is going to be higher. And so you'd want to tap in while interest rates are still reasonably low to benefit from a more affordable mortgage payment. And so I was just giving those reasons, or positing those suggestions as to why, if you have not yet gotten started on the journey, now is the time to do so. And one of the critical things to get started is to plan, right? And so I have just simplified a plan here for the average homeowner, somebody with limited insights of the financial industry, financial market, or the mortgage process. I have packaged, condensed this information in a simplistic way to break it down to the layman, so that you can understand, what are some of the things I need to start considering before I go even think about, going into the bank to apply for a mortgage. And so I call it my ABCs of financial planning. And so I was just highlighting some key jargons, key terms that you need to be aware of, because you're going to hear these terms, floating around, and you don't want to be clueless and say, oh, what I'm talking about. And so I just want to let you know, I spoke about wealth. What is wealth? Since real estate is one of the quickest ways to accumulate wealth, you want to know what is wealth. So from your perspective, type and let me know, what do you consider to be wealth? If somebody were to ask you, what is wealth, what would your response be? So I'll give you some time to type in the chats. Not seeing any responses as yet. What is your idea of wealth? Type and let me know. Alright, so I'm going to go and let the beans out of the bag. Wealth, simply put, is the sum total value of all your physical and as well as intangible assets that you own. So that can be a home, a car, expensive jewelry, things that can be readily exchanged or traded in exchange for value or money. That is sum total of your physical, tangible and intangible assets, that when you put all of that together is considered your wealth. The next thing you want to know is your net worth. What is your net worth? When you hear somebody say, oh, we have a high net worth, what does that mean? It simply means that it's the value of all the assets that person own. You subtract from that all the debts or the liability obligations that they have, and the net position of that is the net worth. So it's assets minus debts gives you your net worth. So you can quickly, or maybe not so quickly, do a calculation of your net worth by looking at and we're not talking about furniture and clothes and those things, unless they're not even so much the clothes, but maybe some handbags that are very designer and there is a market for that. But we're really looking at things of value, your jewelry, your home, car, those assets accumulated. Subtract from that all the debts that you have, so your credit card payments, your car loan, your mortgage payment, your student loan, your rent, if you're already a homeowner, your mortgage, all those liabilities. When you subtract that from your total assets, it gives you a net worth. Another very important one that we're going to be delving a lot into along this journey is what we call TDSR, and that acronym is short for Total Debt Service Ratio. Simply put, it is a percentage of all the debts that you have, every liability, every loan that you have, as a percentage of your gross salary. right? Multiplied by 100. So as I was sharing earlier before the live got interrupted, if you are 50% and above, you're in the red zone. Red zone. You don't want to be in that zone. If you're, say, 40 to 45%, you're in the orange zone, danger zone, you know, kind of getting into the red zone. Below that, 40% and below, you're in the green zone, you know, from a average standpoint. However, if you're going to be introducing a mortgage into that equation, things get a little bit different, because once you add the mortgage payment, it is going to influence your total debt service ratio. And so pre-mortgage, if you're somebody who is preparing to acquire a mortgage in short order, you would want to keep your total debt service ratio below 30%. I'd say ideally 20% and below, but that's, you know, heavily dependent on your income. So 30% and below is a safe zone. When you calculate all your liabilities, all your debts, and you look at that as a percentage of your income, 30 and below is a reasonable space to be if you're planning on taking on a mortgage to, you know, acquire a property. And what is a mortgage? I'm talking about mortgage. What is a mortgage? Simply put, this is a type of loan that you can get from a financial institution, whether it be a commercial bank, a building society, that you are able to use to whether acquire, renovate the home, acquire a home, land, or for renovation purposes. And they will use that property as a security for the financing that they'll be giving to you. Right? So it's basically a trade-off. You get the land and I give you the money, but I have to keep this land, have a lien, what they call a lien. I have some legal rights to this land until you pay me back my money. Simply put. Alright, so we're going to go right into the ABCs of financial planning. The A is assess your current financial position. B, budget. And C, consult the experts. Me being one of them. So A, as I indicated earlier, when you're assessing your financial situation, any financial planning journey entails being in the know. You must always be in the know. And what are the things that you need to know? You need to know your total debt service ratio, your TDSR. You know, how much can you reasonably afford? How much more debt can you afford on top of what you currently have? If you don't have any debts, that's a great place to be. Not in America as much, but debts have their positives and their negatives. It gives you some historical trend of your credit history, you know, your track record and commitment to repay. So that's good. But it also can, you know, serve as a limitation to you acquiring more debt. And so you want to be able to calculate your TDSR. Again, I shared, you know, as you join us on the page stream, we will be providing you with a TDSR calculator tool that you can help to calculate your TDSR and keep track of your TDSR, right? So you definitely want to register and sign up for one of those streams. What's the second thing you want to be aware of? You want to be aware of what do you have allocated for expenses. And so a very important principle that my parents taught me from the moment I started working, it's not what you earn, it's what you save. And so I've devised a formula, ICE, to help persons to understand what are your expenses. So it is income minus savings. That is what you have available for expenses. I, income, S, savings, E, expenses. So many of us have been cultured to believe that your income less spending everything else is what you have available to save. If you use that formula, you are destined to, let me not say destined, it is highly unlikely for you to come into financial freedom if that is your frame of mind. And so the first thing you need to do in assessing your current financial situation is reframing your way of thinking about your finances. So your savings must always take priority over your expenses. And so if your net income, so after you save now, the net income you have available, you see if your expenses more than that, you're in trouble. You're in the red zone. However, if your net income exceeds your total expenses, then that means you're in, hold on, I think I might have said that wrong. So if your net income is greater than your expenses, then you're in the green zone. So it means that you have more net income, meaning after you get your salary and you take out your savings, if that money that you have leave back is more than your total expenses, you're in a green zone, you're in a positive financial position. But on the other hand, if your net income, which again I said ICE, is your income minus your savings, gives you the net income you have available for expenses. You see, if that figure is actually less than your expenses, then you know that you're in the red zone, you're in a negative financial position, and there's some banding of the belly that will need to take place to get you back on the right track. And so what's some possible solutions to getting in the green zone to make sure that your expenses are less than your net income? One option is you can get more income, and we'll go a little more in depth on what are some solutions to increase income once it is that we start the paid journey. But a quick solution is to increase your income. Another option is to reduce your expenses, and there are many things that you can do to reduce your expenses. Cutting back on spending on everyday expenses. Debt consolidation, however, is one of the most impactful ways that you'll be able to shift your net financial position and ensure that your income can actually exceed your expenses. And so we'll take you through this journey over the next 2 weeks and beyond, and give you solutions, practical solutions that can help you to increase your net financial position and ensure that you have more net income or more ability to save than your expenses. All right, and one of the other game changers is building your credit history. So in Jamaica, we are not as reliant on credit history as in the US, but we've made strides over the years, and so we've had two major credit bureaus in Jamaica, Credit Info and CRIF, and they now form a part of the credit assessment process used by many banks, many financial institutions. And so you want to ensure that before you embark on property ownership, you're going to need to assess your credit history. And what does that mean? Ensuring that you pay your debts on time and in full, whether it's your credit cards or your loans. And you also want to ensure that if you have any delinquent payments, that you start taking steps to correct that pattern, because your credit repayment pattern is another thing that many financial institutions use to assess your eligibility for financing. And so you may have defaulted in the past, especially student loan. We know in Jamaica, student loan is a thorn in many persons' back, but embrace them. Go in, speak to them, set up a payment plan. Any financial institution that you have that you're currently in default with, go in, speak with them, get started on a plan, so that when you're ready to embark on your home ownership journey, this does not become a stumbling block or a deterrent in your way, because you would have shown commitment to repay by going in and setting up a payment plan. And important to note as well in assessing a financial journey or financial situation is, who do you partner with? And so when looking, for example, for debt consolidation options, it would be good to tie that transaction to the institution that you have in mind to get mortgage financing from. So develop a credit relationship with the institution that you intend to seek financing from. That will help to strengthen your eligibility as well, because many financial institutions look at the time of relationship that you've had with them as a part of their credit assessment process. So again, the A of financial planning: assess your current situation, be in the know. What do you need to know? Know your TDSR, know your net financial position, whether your expenses exceed your income or your income exceeds your expenses. And then you're going to also need to know where you are credit wise in terms of your credit history. The next part of the process is the B, budgeting. Or as Tanto would say, budget. And so, you want to, in budgeting, develop or establish a solid plan. And what I suggest or what I recommend is that plan should be three-dimensional. So you want to have a plan on how you accumulate savings and investments. You also want to have a plan on how to handle unexpected expenses, and we call that emergency fund. A good suggestion is to have at least 3 to 6 months income as your emergency fund. Also have some lending options. If you're into credit cards, that can also be an emergency fund option for some persons. And thirdly, develop a plan to minimize sporadic spending. That is the KFC, you're passing KFC and you smell it and you feel like you have to stop. That needs to be a part of your plan, as well as taking on any new debts. So as you're preparing for the process of home ownership, you want to minimize taking on any new debts. There are instances where it will become necessary, especially if you need to undertake, consolidating existing debts in order to reduce your TDSR. But outside of that, it is best to stay clear of taking on any new loans which will negatively impact the TDSR. And there is a financial principle used by the Jews that I strongly adhere to in my own personal journey, and it has really been transformational in helping me to build my asset portfolio. And it's called the 5-jar principle. And simply put, the Jews, when they're teaching their children financial literacy, they give them 5 jars, literal like mason jars. And they say, okay, 1 jar is for tithing. You tithe is 10% of your income. And so 10% of what you earn, you're going to put it in that jar, and that is for God. Right? For persons who may not be, spiritual, you may choose to do benevolent work with that 10%. Giving as well. So if you are not a Christian or you have not yet come into the revelation of tithing, you would have 20% allocated for giving. But for my tithers out there, you will have 10% for tithing, 10% for giving. So this is the 10% if your sister or your neighbor come and say, you can lend me $1,000 till next week. You know that you have this money in this jar that is readily available, and you're not lending what you cannot afford to lose because you would have already budgeted this portion for giving. All right, next 10% now is savings. And a rule of thumb is automate savings as best as possible. What do I mean by automating savings? Meaning set up systems that will pull the funds, whether directly from your salary or once it hits your bank account, that will take it to another account that you will not have access to. You will not have the ability to mingle or meddle in those funds. And so there are many options available. You can do a salary deduction if your employer facilitates it. You can do a standing order. Once the salary hits the account, you set up a standing order, preferably on your pay date, that pulls those funds and sends it to another source that you don't have access to. There are also some institutions, primarily your insurance agencies, that do pre-authorized payments. So they facilitate having pre-authorized amounts come out of your bank account each month, and they go into a separate account. So your savings plan, you need to automate, which eliminates the temptation to dip into those funds and, obliterate your savings. So again, we're talking about the 5-jar principles for those just joining. Hi, Molly. Hi, Devroy. Thanks for joining. Hi, Cydia. We said 10% is allocated to tithing, 10% to giving, 10% to savings, 20% to investing, and then the 50% that's left, you have that to spend, right, on whatever it is that you need to spend on, whether it be liabilities, shopping, groceries, utilities. That 50% is made available. And funny to note, the financial institutions actually do model to some extent this 5-jar principle, because their rule of thumb is that your total spending ability or spending capacity should be not more than 40 to 45% of your gross income. And so it is somewhat aligned to the 5-jar principle, right? So this is an excellent way, and I strongly encourage it that you adopt this principle if you need to become disciplined about savings, because to start the home ownership process, you need to accumulate, some portion of the cost. You must have your own input. And so I believe the 5-jar principle is a very, key way to get started in building the necessary cost that you will need to acquire to start the home ownership journey. And as I said, automate. Another key thing that you can do, many employers locally, they have commission payments, they have bonuses. Use those one-off lump sum payments as best as possible to inject in investment, as well as to clear debts, to pay down debts. So as I said, the A, assessing your financial position and being in the know. If your total debt service is in the red or orange zone, which is, as I said, 30% and higher before you undertake your mortgage, every opportunity you get, you want to find ways to make lump sum principal payments on your loans or lump sum payments on your credit card to reduce that balance, which will ultimately impact your TDSR. Alright, so any lump sum payments, you get a financial gift, somebody squeeze a little $10,000 and say, here for your birthday, don't go think to go shop with it or to buy something nice. If you're in this position where you're planning to take on property ownership, you should be thinking about, how can I build my investment portfolio or savings portfolio, or how can I use these funds to pay down debt? And so a critical part of the journey is reframing your mindset. Money is no longer to spend. Money is to accumulate more money. That's the mission, that's the goal. Money upon top of money. More money, or more money, as what's his name? Biggie Smalls said. Alright, so in budgeting for the costs, I'm just going to give you very high level information again. We go in more depth in the nitty gritty over the next 2 weeks in the paid sessions, but there are some key costs that you need to prepare for when starting the home ownership journey. And so we're looking at the vendor or vendor's attorney. You will need to budget, and as I said, in the paid journey we will go in more details on the percentages for these amounts, where you're going to be responsible for withstanding half the cost of the sale agreement plus GCT. Don't forget Mr. Clark. You also need to budget for your deposit, which on average is between 10 to 20% of the selling price. And you'll also need to bear half the cost for the letters of possession, which is a formal document that they will give you once they receive the funds, telling you that you can now go and occupy your new home. Right? So these are costs that are payable to the government entities. And these include your half cost for stamp duties. You also have registration fees. So the transfer agreement, which is the legally binding document that allows the property ownership to be transferred from the vendor to the purchaser, you will have to bear a portion of the cost for the registration of that document. Bank fees are another thing to consider, and we touched a little bit on that in last week's session. So you have your credit bureau fees, your title search fees, commitment fees, which the bank will cost, and we see that's in the ballpark range of 1.5% to 2% on average for most local entities, and your mortgage, stamping, and registration fees. Again, we'll go more in depth as you come along with us on the journey, so you will have specific information. How much money will you need to accumulate to undertake every stage of the journey? And then we have other third parties who are involved in the process that you'll need to pay along the journey. So you have your attorney. If you're going to be using an attorney to guide you through the transaction, you're going to have to pay your attorney. Average attorney cost is about 3% of the value of the transaction. You have your appraisal fee, surveyor's report fee. You'll need to get property insurance if you're using a mortgage, as well as life insurance, which in many cases is optional. And so this just gives you a high level idea what are some of the costs that you will need to undertake as a prospective homeowner that you'll need to budget, prepare, and plan for as you start the journey. All right, and so the C, because tonight we're talking about ABCs of financial planning. A is assessing your financial situation, current financial situation. B, budgeting. And the C is consult the experts. And so there are some critical persons in the financial industry that you will need to become aligned with, or you'll need to partner with as you embark on this journey. And so if debt consolidation as a part of your planning strategy is what is needed, you need to liaise with a loan officer, personal banker, as well as a financial coach, who can provide strategies, solutions to you on how to reduce your total debt service ratio as well as your liability payments. If your goal is to increase or build your savings and emergency fund, then again a personal banker can give you some insights on how to go along this, but a financial coach as well will be very important for you to sign up for a financial coach who will outline some strategies for you to build your savings plan, emergency fund. As I mentioned before, some persons utilize credit cards as an optional emergency fund. So you have the credit card but you don't use it, you lock it away. If there should be an unexpected emergency which arises, then you would have those funds available to offset those expenses. And if your objective on the financial planning journey is to start or expand your investment portfolio, then you need to consult with a financial advisor or your portfolio manager, as well as a financial coach. And these persons will be able to provide practical yet relevant solutions to help you to accumulate your investment and your wealth portfolio, to set you on a good trajectory to accumulate the relevant costs that you will need to bear as you undertake the mortgage transaction or the home ownership transaction journey. And I am very big on mentorship. So there are some other practical experts that you can consult that will not necessarily cost you. And one of them, I am very big on reading. Reading maketh a full man. So read and read all you can. I don't know if you guys remember that song from back in the day. But reading, there are a wealth of resources available in text, in books, that can help you to establish the right mind frame, because that's what this is about. Remember, wealth accumulation is not just about owning tangible assets, but most importantly, which is why I term the series Hone It to Own It, it is the skills and the knowledge that you acquired to shift your mindset. That is really where wealth accumulation starts. So you could be broke as dirt, that's a term that I know, and you have the right mindset, you're on the right trajectory to establish wealth. So you want to feed yourself with the right knowledge. There are some books, 3 books I'd recommend for you to get started. Hi Mickey, thank you for that feedback. 3 books I'd recommend for you to get started is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, Dave Jenks, and Jay Papasan. The book on rental property investing for those who are looking on embarking on this journey for investment purposes, and that book is by Brandon Turner. And I'd also strongly recommend, this is a very popular one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Right? So those are 3, resources that I would strongly recommend for you to start reading as you prepare yourself to embark on the home ownership journey. Another way of, consulting with experts is submitting to mentorship. So you have paid mentorship. You can subscribe to a financial mentor who, you pay formally, and they guide you, teaching you, basically they invest their wealth of knowledge in you and teach you what they know, right? Which is similar to what I'll be doing over the course of the 2-week journey, is investing in you, all the wealth of knowledge I've acquired over my 14 years as a financial, solutions expert. Another way is, there are a lot of people on social media similar to what I'm doing who really just are passionate about helping other people to realize their full potential. and they come on and they share the wealth of knowledge, the wealth of expertise that they have, and they make that readily available online for free. And so there are 3 persons that I personally follow, and I'd encourage you to go and follow them. In addition, if you're not following my page and you're on tonight, somebody may have shared this live with you, please start by subscribing and following my page, Kimon Tobias. In addition to these 3 game changers, I believe, Kalila Reynolds, Anna the Money Coach, and Keisha Bailey. So those 3 women are women of power who, I love what they're doing, and I believe that the information they provide is authentic, but it's also valuable resources to help to, put you on the right trajectory to building wealth and acquiring property, to start your journey. And so in summary, just, to recap what we have discussed tonight, property acquisition is one of the most major transactions that most persons will ever undertake in their lifetime. And so it is critical that before you embark on this journey, that you prepare, and not just prepare, you properly prepare to take the plunge. Well, let me not say plunge, you take the leap. Plunge sound like you're gonna fail. Leap or soar, right? And also remember, as we look at the A of financial planning, assessing your current financial position, it's not what you earn, it's what you save that matters. And our ICE formula, ISE, income minus savings, is how you derive what you have available for, allocating to your monthly expenses. B of financial planning is to budget. And so that entails taking a comprehensive look at, your net income and how you allocate that income on a monthly basis. And there's a very, popular quote, I think it's by Robert Kiyosaki. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will tell you where it has gone. And so you need to know how you are budgeting. So the 5-jar principle is a very solid one that I would recommend. 10% to tithing, 10% to giving, 10% to savings, 20% to investing, and the remaining 50% you have that available to spend, splurge, shop, all the S's that you want to do. And another critical part of the, assessing your financial position is looking at maintaining a favorable credit history. And so you want to ensure that you repay your debts on time and in full. If you have any delinquency with any financial institution, you go in and you set up an arrangement, a payment plan to start repaying that debt from now. And just for persons who may have some, bad debt history, meaning you would have had a debt that would have gone to non-accrual, or what we call bad debt. So you don't pay it more than 90 days and the bank now considers you to be in their bad books, for want of a better word. All hope is not lost. So our statutory limitations, which means that our local legal guideline states that if you have filed for bad debt and you have settled that debt, after 7 years, you establish that you become a better person in handling your financial objectives, they will now extend credit to you. And so if you've gone off course in your monthly repayments, your debt, your credit history, go in and speak to the experts so that they can put you back on a solid trajectory, so that when you are ready to apply for your mortgage, your credit history will be in a favorable position to make you eligible. And last but not least, you want to seek expert guidance to stay on track to your financial plan. So you assess the situation, your budget, and then you consult the experts who will help you to stay on course to your financial plan. And once you have established that plan, on the journey, the paid journey, we will actually give you suggested timelines, depending on what stage you are at in the journey. And once you establish this solid financial plan using the guidelines and the principles I've shared tonight, your next step is to go in and get pre-qualified so you can start your home hunting journey. Right? So I'm just going to ask persons to share what are some of the key takeaways that they've had from tonight's session. what you found most insightful from the information shared. I do hope the information, well, let me not say do hope, I know this information has been very insightful in terms of shifting your mindset and helping you to think about and to get started on a financial plan to home ownership. So I'm excited to start this journey with you. If you have not yet signed up, I emphasize, do not delay. This information and more is being made available to you at the reasonable cost, starting as low as $2,500 and as much as $7,500. It is an investment that is worth the while, because what you will reap at the end of the journey is far more than what you would have spent. And so that is the value, that is how you assess the impact of an investment. What are the yields that you gain in comparison to what you would have started out with? All right, so Lisa says, yes, the journey has been insightful. Share. Let me know what you found, most informative about what was shared tonight. Do you have any questions? Where are you at on the journey? Share and let me know. Are you looking at starting this journey in the medium to long term, meaning home ownership? You have your sights on getting a property in the near future, less than a year, by the end of the year? Or is it that you want to embark on this journey to build generational and, personal wealth? You want to do it for investment purposes. Share and let me know what your objective is, whether you're a long-term to medium to long-term potential purchaser, short-term potential purchaser, or you're planning to purchase for investment purposes. Okay, so Ishel says she's looking for investment properties, and Molly says she loves the thought of having 50% to splurge. That's holy, don't it? When you look at the grand scheme of things. Okay, and hubby Kevon says it's very informative. Alright, and the 5-jar principle is his key takeaway. My Facebook family is very quiet over here. Let me know what you would have been most meaningful or most impactful to you from the information shared tonight. Alright, so I just want to close by sharing a scripture with you to remind you that, embarking on this journey is actually a part of God's plan for your life. And it is Genesis 11 verse 6. And it also ties in what I was sharing earlier about your mindset is where it all begins. With a made up mind, nothing is impossible. Genesis 11 verse 6 states, "And the Lord said, Behold, they are one people, and they all have one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they purpose to do will now be impossible for them." I just want to leave with this passage of scripture to remind you that, a made up mind, once you purpose in your heart that you want to embark on this home ownership journey, it is a goal that you've set for yourself to shift your trajectory and the trajectory of your generation to come with a made up mind. And as the scripture said, they all had one language. What does it mean? Your connection, the persons that you're connected to, the persons who are speaking to you must be speaking the same language as you. So you need to check your connections. Are the persons who you are connected to, do they have the same goals, the same ambitions, the same objectives that you do? And you need to find at least 3 persons in your circle to connect with who are able to share your vision, share your goal, encourage you along the journey. And as the word of God says, if you follow this formula, nothing that you purpose in your heart will be impossible for you to accomplish. And so I just want to bless God for everybody. Thank you so much for joining this live. I do hope it was insightful. I do hope it will be impactful. My prayer is that they would have planted a seed in your mind, in your heart, for you to start thinking about property acquisition. Maybe you haven't yet owned a home and you think that this is too far out of your reach. Let this be a seed to encourage you that it is impossible. If you purpose it in your heart, nothing will be impossible for you. Or maybe you already own a home, like Mikisha says. I would love to own a second home for investment purposes. The start for that journey seems challenging, but as you say, it's all about the mindset. And so you own a second home, you own a home already, and you may be thinking about grasping for a second one. With the correct mindset, with the correct principles, which is, we'll be also giving you principles along this journey. It's not just information, but also key principles that you need to adopt to make that goal a little more attainable. Put it in the grasp of your hands, and make it become a tangible reality for you and your family. So again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I do want to apologize about the technical challenges that we experienced earlier, and I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you. And before you leave, or even after you leave, please share this video, like the video, share it with someone who you believe would be able to benefit from being a part of this journey, and invite them to register and come along with us for a life-changing transformational journey. All right, have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye. Okay, bye, Taj. Thanks for sharing.